3 more additions for Michigan over the weekend. We will discuss that, Anthony Simpson's wild allegations, and more on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Thank you to all of our everydayers who watch or listen to the show every single day, and big thank you for making us your first listen. Also, big thank you to the everydayers who subscribe, that are there in the Discord and making things nuts. I love it. First off, we're going to start out with the additions of the Moa brothers, as well as linebacker Nathaniel Staehling, who comes aboard yesterday, and the impact that they might have on Team 147 and more. And then we're going to discuss Anthony Simpson's claims. And then after that, we're going to get into just the portal period that was. So let's get right into all of that. Let's start off with the one that everyone wants to hear about, and that's 2026 freshman from Ogden, Fremont, Celest Moa, who Michigan coveted so much, so hard, so fresh, so clean. I don't know why I was going into so fresh, so clean. Is this an outcast? There's nothing to do with outcast, regardless. But right, like he was committed elsewhere twice. He was committed to Tennessee, and then he committed to Utah, and now he's at Michigan. And really worked out for the Wolverines to be able to get him into the fray, given just how hard it chased him the entire time, and just could not seem to get him on board. He visited for the game. A big part of that's obviously his brother AC playing for Michigan State last year, and him coming to see him play at Ford Field and all of that. But nonetheless, it's huge. I mean, this is a guy that just won the MVP, alpha dog over at the Polynesian Bowl, guy who can play either side of the ball. I know a lot think that his ceiling is highest on the defensive side, and I think he's probably most exciting on the offensive side. In the Polynesian Bowl, he was supposed to have a pick six. They erroneously called him out of bounds. It was a whole thing. But nonetheless, the fact that they are able to get a guy like this is finally getting that player. That one that everyone's always kind of waited for. Think if you're an OG when it comes to following recruiting, and I say OG, I don't mean like 20 years ago, but let's go back 10 years. Remember the name Vic Viramontes? This is a guy that everyone was like, oh man, this guy's going to be something. Don't know what he's going to be, but he's going to be something. And he wasn't even rated nearly as high as Salesi. This is Michigan finally getting like that. I shouldn't say finally, because they got Jabril Peppers, who's, certainly a guy who they looked at as, this is a weapon we can use all over the field. That's what Celest Moa is. 6'2", 175 pounds. I mean, you get strength and conditioning through him. I mean, he's a special type of player. Two-way contributor, and this is from Michigan, two-way contributor in high school, wide receiver and safety, total 226 catches for 3,757 yards and 44 touchdowns during his career, with 97 tackles and 5 interceptions across his final 2 seasons. I mean, insane type of player, and should be like a game changer potentially straight out the gates. Like, it's kind of funny because I don't feel like there's been like that typical hype buildup that you get for like when you get a high-end recruit going into signing day and all that, because obviously he had already signed with Utah. He enrolled in classes. The dream seemed dead, and you get him in the transfer portal of all places. After a coaching change, after all of that. But like, let's say he had committed to Michigan back in, I don't know, like June, like when everyone else was committing, like he probably maybe not quite as much as Savion Hyder, but close. It would have been like people have been sitting there like just constantly F5ing Twitter and the Michigan's little announcement landing page and all that, and just being like, is Salesi in? Is Salesi in? Is Salesi in? And now you don't have anything to worry about. You got him for at least a year. Everything goes to plan, obviously more. But I mean, you just think about what that wide receiver room is, because I'm just going to assume, because Utah had said, hey, you want to play wide receiver, go nuts. Same staff, right? So same head coach, same offensive coordinator, same wide receivers coach. So you have to imagine that will happen. But you also have to imagine that there will be a little bit of jockeying from the coaching staff to be like, Jay Hill's going to want him. And, they might be able to Travis Hunter or Charles Woodson him. That's the thing. But he's not the only one. His brother AC comes along as well. He's 6'2", 235. He comes via Michigan State. Before that, he was at BYU. So he's got the familiarity with Jay Hill and his defensive system. I think that like between him and Max Alford, I think they'll just be slightly ahead of the learning curve in terms of that, right? Like depth that you can trust and count on might not be the flashiest thing, but if they're able to get production on the back end and in the front end, then it doesn't matter quite as much. But he was at BYU for 3 years. He spent 1 at Michigan State, 27 games, 1 start at linebacker, 4 varsity letters, 29 tackles, 1.5 for loss, 2 pass breakups, and 1 forced fumble. So great for a depth standpoint. And that's certainly exciting. But then they end up getting another linebacker. So that's the third. They got 4 linebackers to come in, right? Because lest we forget, Christian Pierce, Trey Pierce's brother, also transferred from Western Illinois. So they got 4 linebackers in this class. And they got Nate Staehling, who is another, again, 6'2", 238 pounds. He comes from North Dakota State. He had 75 tackles last season, 6 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks. Before that, he also had 3 interceptions and I believe 2 touchdowns on those interceptions. But before that, he had injuries and, it was like just going through, the development process. Injuries precluded him. He gets on the field and he does well. And I know there's going to be Michigan fans that sit there and look at it and say, like, oh, lower level, do not want. And I urge you to look at one of the teams that's playing in the national championship today, right? Like, I understand James Madison's not FCS and it hadn't been FCS for a while. But nonetheless, like, look at Indiana, right? Like it just doesn't always work that way. Going from a lower level team, a group of 5 up, it doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. And I think, again, you just got to trust this coaching staff. This is like the most trust the coaches that I feel like we're going to be able to get away with, because we're going off of a lot of these guys' past record at either Utah or whatever else they came from. And for those who kind of look at Alex Whittingham and say, oh, I don't know, he hasn't been in college. It's like, yeah, because it's a real big step down to be with the Kansas City Chiefs. You know what I mean? So I think that there's just a lot to really like about these 3 guys that they brought in for different reasons. Obviously, Salesi should have your full and undivided attention. And then I think Nathaniel, I don't know if it's, I keep on putting Nate Staehling just because I'm assuming. Nathaniel Staehling, I think certainly could be a guy that's at the very least in heavy rotation. And I think you're going to see a decent amount of AC Moa. So, and I think that they'll find ways to make this work. I think that you're going to walk away from this defense, which, and we'll get more into just like the overall, but like, I think you're going to walk away feeling pretty good about where they are in terms of everything. Now, it's a super hard schedule this next year. Both On3 and USA Today put out their 2 early top 25s. And On3's at least has, I think, 6 of the teams. Maybe it was 5, but I think 6 on there face Michigan. I think it's 5. Ohio State was number 1. You got Oregon, Indiana, Penn State, and Iowa. So I mean, and Oklahoma. So I mean, it's going to be a hard schedule, but it's going to be interesting to see with guys like Celest Moa. How does Kyle Whittingham, like, suddenly he's got new toys, like levels of toys, like all together. Like he might have had a Celest Moa at Utah, but he'd have 1. But he's also got a Savion Hyder and a Jordan Marshall and a Bryce Underwood and Andrew Marsh. And then on the other side, it's like, did they really have like signees at Utah that were just, like this? They've got a lot of guys, like having a Nathaniel Boateng, for instance, or a Shamari Earls. It's going from driving dependable Hondas and then suddenly getting into let's say Pagani. Let's go with a Pagani this time, just because I saw some Paganis at the auto show. It's like all of a sudden you went from a nice and trusty Honda Civic into a Pagani, or we could go with like a Ferrari LaFerrari or something like that. That's essentially what Kyle Whittingham's stepping into. So it's going to be really interesting. All right, we've got a lot more to get to. Let's get to Anthony Simpson's comments. They deserve some time here. And we're going to get to that here in just a moment. But before we do, the college football playoff is here, and FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game day of the playoffs. Today's the last day, folks. Right now, every college football playoff game day, today, the last one, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. Here's what I love about it. You get to use the profit boost on bets you already feel good about. Ride with the favorite when you think a team controls the matchup. Take a shot on the underdog if you feel an upset coming, or build a parlay around the players and moments that you think decide the game. Then you apply the profit boost and you go from there. Get your bigger winnings. And when you win, FanDuel pays out instantly, which is perfect for playoff football. FanDuel is the best place to get into the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boost every game day. Thank you for making Locked On Wolverines your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Wolverines with no interruptions. And here's the thing. Members-only Discord access. There's more and more of you joining this, and it's becoming even more awesome. I'm letting y'all talk for a minute, but I'm in there. I'm every time someone tags me, I'm answering you. But I'm letting y'all get settled, and I'm sharing stuff I shouldn't share in there. And guess what? For $5 a month or $50 a year, you can be in there too. So go to lockedonwolverines.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. It's super fun. You got to join. Okay. Let's go to, I put this backwards. There we go. Anthony Simpson had some really interesting, if you don't know who Anthony Simpson is, because I saw some of this, there was a lot of there's some consternation. I'm not gonna say a lot, some consternation on the fort because I made an article on this, which by the way is my job. I'm tired of the Sharon Moore stuff. Sorry, that's the job. You just put that out there. That's the job. I have to do it. It's not optional. Okay. A former player, an outgoing player, accuses the former staff of something. I don't have a national news desk like 24/7 and On3 have. So that falls to me to write. But nonetheless, Anthony Simpson was a transfer in from UMass. He had played under Steve Kasula, who was his offensive coordinator at UMass. And he was entering this last year the most productive wide receiver on the entire roster. And yet he only saw 24 snaps total. So he posted a couple videos and he said this: targets versus, let me start this. There we go. Targets versus non-targets. I was the best slot receiver for Michigan, and I was treated unfairly due to Sharon Moore being blackmailed by players and staff members, which jeopardized my opportunity to get on the field. Fastest player on the team, and I won reps every day in practice. Only there for fall camp. Our team captains also advocated for me to play. I was denied fairness, and he entered the transfer portal with that. Okay, so there's a lot to kind of get to here, break down here. I'm not saying that wholeheartedly that I believe it, but I'm not saying I don't believe it, right? This is not a shot, because again, I love Samaj Morgan Jr., I love Samaj Morgan Sr. It is we bring up Steve, my friend Steve Dace, often on the show. He tweeted every single Saturday that he's never seen someone allowed to hurt their team more than Samaj hurt Michigan. And he often said, someone's he's got to have some dirt on somebody. And as much as that was a joke, it's kind of maybe it wasn't. Because it's amazing that with all of the mistakes, it took until ultimate cataclysm almost happens against Northwestern before finally okay, yeah, this experiment's not even done, but close. Channing Goodwin had less of a go than Samaj did, for instance. So I can't write it off entirely, especially because there's just some weird, but first off, I'm not actually accusing Samaj. I'm just saying, was Anthony Simpson, who had 750 yards at UMass, was he worse than Samaj? I have a hard time believing that. That's what I'm saying, essentially. I feel like I do believe to some degree some of what he's saying, but I don't necessarily outright believe it either. Right? It could be, sour grapes, but he's entering with the staff that he was playing for completely gone. Right? No more Sharon, no more Ron Bellamy, no more Chip Lindsey, no more Steve Kasula. They're all gone. So it's kind of like, why, if, and he puts it right on Sharon Moore's doorstep as well. So it's kind of like, why else would you do this? Now, I don't think it's a good look for him to do this either, right? Like, I don't think anyone's going to be clamoring to pick him up out of the portal after seeing him essentially doing this. But I'll say this, there are weirder things that have happened in locker rooms. This was like kind of a revelation, and it was on the record, so I can talk about it. But like Channing Stribling, I interviewed Channing Stribling when I was with 24/7 Sports. We did like an hour sit down inside Glick, and he revealed to me that like, hey, there's, before Jim Harbaugh came here, the locker room was fully segregated by race, and it's like, whoa, that's crazy. And then that happened again a couple of years later. So, like, weirdly, there's things that can happen that you could sit there and look at and say, yeah, there's no way, right? Like a lot of you probably, if you had heard this time last year, hey, Sharon sleeping with a staffer, you'd probably be like, yeah, that's too on the nose. Like there's no way, right? Like these things can happen. Again, I'm not saying it has. I don't know. I had a colleague tell me that he heard it was BS, but I don't know. That's just one of those things that I don't know. All I know is that we do know that there was dysfunction within Schembechler Hall. That's what I know. So you might ask, why did I write it? Because it's an allegation brought from a former player. It's not saying it's fact. It's not saying it's not fact. It's just saying, hey, this player made an allegation. It's enough to like sit up and pay attention to. And that would go for any player, right? Like if it was, Evan Buderwick, outgoing long snapper who committed to Northwestern, saying something like that's worth paying attention to. But just it feels more credible than not, in large part due to the things that we know were happening with Sharon Moore and some of the things which. I mean, even some of the treatment of like, just like the, like I've mentioned, just like what Jack Tuttle got just for merely being like, a lot of you probably watched or listened to that show where he said after the USC game, yeah, there's some finger pointing going on in there, but hey, they'll figure it out. They're going to be good. I have confidence. That's really all he said. And because an MSU patrol account posted that with the hashtag noticing, Jack got treated like persona non grata from some members of that coaching staff and acted like, so I don't really have the sympathy or even availability to sit and look at it and say like, well, I can give them the benefit of the doubt. To me, they haven't earned it, unfortunately. There are some who have, I think, right? Like I love Ron Bellamy. I have a hard time seeing him being involved in something like that, but maybe, like, I don't know. Like it's a crazy, like there were crazy things going on inside Schembechler Hall. And I think like the good news is we can put that in the past, but it's also good to know what happened in the past. He who forgets the past is doomed to repeat it. Okay, that was too serious. That's too much. All right, let's get to where Michigan is now overall. Now that everything is the dust is settled, no more going into the transfer portal. At least from what we know, they've got till Wednesday. I mean, technically they had until Friday. Transfer portal's closed, but the school has until Wednesday. So it sounds like everything's good. So the biggest additions, the biggest subtractions. Let's get to that here momentarily. Before we do, tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever just to hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending your hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction possible. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150. All in, if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. All right, let's finish up. There's obviously Michigan's got some. So I think that Michigan won the transfer portal in terms of the people I would say are those above the line impact players compared to those that they lost. I think that I got 6 guys, particularly, actually 7, because I kept on forgetting to write the one name down here. 7 guys that I think are starter caliber, going to play a ton out of the portal. And I have really only one player that I think was likely to start, and 2 guys that were just going to be in rotation ultimately. So that's a trade you take anytime. Now, there's some people that I don't have on impact players that probably will be. There's some people I don't have on the key losses that probably should be as well. Like I don't have Ty Haywood on here, but like down the line, that might sting a little bit more, right? But we'll see. I could put Justice Haynes on here as well, but it almost feels like a wash to me a little bit. Just to, coming off the injury, they still got Jordan Marshall. They're bringing in Savion Hyder and Taylor. And I didn't even mention everybody. I didn't even mention Taylor Tatum here in my impact players. So I have 7 impact players here. John Henry Daly, edge rusher, cornerback Smith Snowden, who will likely be your starting nickel, wide receivers J.J. Buchanan and Jamie French, athlete Celest Moa, safety Chris Bracey, and maybe it's 6.5, maybe linebacker Nathaniel Staehling. I think you're going to see all 7 of those guys early and often. That's huge. That's like 2023. Like I'm trying to think, like, Drake Nugent, Ladarius Henderson, AJ Barner, like the same like level of like guys that they brought in where it was like all these guys are making impacts. That's what I feel like they got. And there's others, right, that you feel like, some of them are going to be more down the line. Some of them will be rotational, like the 3 other linebackers, I think. I mean, you'll see at least a couple of them. Some of them like, Jonah Leah or Leah. I don't know how to say his name. Like, he's another one where I'm kind of, I'm like, he's probably going to start. I don't even have him listed here as an impact player. But I just think that they've got a lot that's going to really just be able to come in and make massive impacts. On the other side, you lose what? Yeah, you lost a couple starters. I don't think and here's part of my calculus is like when I said like Justice Haynes isn't on this list, it's because I think like not having Justice Haynes doesn't necessarily impact the room as a whole. I think the room as a whole is actually just as good. It's probably actually better. Because I think if you were to take it last year and say Justice Haynes, Jordan Marshall, and the field of the other running backs versus Jordan Marshall, Taylor Tatum, Savion Hyder, I think you're going to take this group over that. So, okay, it's a loss. It's a massive loss. But like what they've got is already better, in my opinion. So you've got that. My key losses essentially are Cole Sullivan, Jaden Sanders, Elijah Dotson. 2 of those guys are kind of more, they might be rotational. And you kind of look at them more as like, man, next year they're going to be incredible. Jaden Sanders and Elijah Dotson in particular. Cole Sullivan's the only one that I feel like, man, if you could take any of the departing transfers back, any of them, it would be Cole Sullivan. There's no question to me. But would you trade what you got versus what you lost? I also think yes. Like, you're going to lose some. And I thought that it was a nice targeted attack by the Whittingham staff to be able to get what they got. Now, some of them like aren't necessarily like Jamie French. Do we know if he's actually going to be what or Celest Moa? Are they going to be what we think that they can be? I mean, we'll see, right? Like Jamie French has got 1 year, redshirted, 1 catch. Hard to say, but like top of the line recruit. Obviously, we ended up at a place that's very, very friendly for pass catchers, but just had a log jam. And then Celest Moa is, yet to take a college snap. But like a lot of these others, like John Henry Daly, Smith Snowden, Chris Bracey, JJ Buchanan, Nathaniel Staehling, they've all shown that they can do it, at least at the schools that they were at. Most of those happen to be Utah. So that obviously North Dakota State and Memphis being the others. But I think that you trade what you lost for what you got. Absolutely. And to me, that says that it's not quite A plus material, but I think we're in the A minus B plus region. And the only thing keeping it there is not getting that impact DT or LB. That's it. And maybe Nathaniel Staehling ends up being that impact linebacker anyway. And we'll see. But, ultimately, I think that they did a great job. And now you don't have to worry about staving guys off. You can still, pick and choose who's still out there in the portal, see if there's anyone else that you want. I think they're in just a really good spot. Like I said, the schedule's difficult, very difficult. At least you got some of those at home. Oklahoma, Indiana, they travel to Oregon. Penn State's at home, I believe, as well. Kind of wish it was in Happy Valley because I like going there, but, fine, whatever. Ohio State's on the road as well. So I think that I think that this is a team that can do some damage, but there's very little room for error. And again, with the trust the coaching staff of it all, like we talked about earlier, why wouldn't you trust this coaching staff when you've seen what they've done over a multi-decade track record with lesser players, essentially, lesser rosters? And yes, a lot of these guys, like that we're mentioning, were developed at Utah, right? John Henry Daly, Smith Snowden, JJ Buchanan, developed at Utah. You mix that with the guys who they're working to develop harder. Like, I'm sure you all feel a lot more comfortable about the idea of Bryce Underwood working with Coy Detmer Jr. compared to what they had going last year, right? You feel better about having the wide receiving core that you got now compared to what they had going last year. You should feel better about the offensive line, not only because these are guys that looked better as the year went on and got better experience, but now you got a real veteran, truly tested, capable offensive line coach. Again, that's not discrediting Grant Newsome, but he's learning on the job. You got a guy that has already gotten a track record of being an incredible developer of talent. So that's great. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.